How many of us really talk about our loneliness or our fear of being lonely? And even if we avouch about this loneliness or this vulnerability, do we really get accepted and embraced? Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ekta and today in this video I thought about talking about something which has become an epidemic. There are so many websites that talks about how loneliness has become an epidemic today, and we really need to take care of this at the earliest. Now during the pandemic, we really understood the importance of social connection. And at one point, we all became so rebellious, keeping distance, whether emotionally, physically, all of that. We wanted to meet people, see people, stay connected to people. But now, loneliness has become a part of this new culture. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what exactly is loneliness, why are people becoming more and more lonely by the day, and how to deal with loneliness. So without any further ado, let's get started. You know, a lot of people think that being lonely is analogous to being alone. But being lonely and being alone are absolutely two different things. For example, you can be in a room full of people, surrounded by lots of people, and yet feel lonely. It basically gives you the hint that there is some sense of disconnection. That is called being lonely. Versus, you can be alone all by yourself and still enjoy your solitude, enjoy yourself, enjoy your company. Now, of course, I won't be talking about the benefits of solitude here because we all know that solitude can actually help us become a better person. It can help us into some self-reflection, self-journaling, and understanding our true self. But here the whole thing is about being lonely. Why are people really becoming lonelier and lonelier every single day? Why loneliness has become an epidemic? Loneliness can either make you or break you. It can either remind you of your power, your strengths while you're all by yourself, or it can completely shatter you, it can break you, and it can also keep you in a toxic relationship because you fear being alone, because you fear being lonely, or fear being left out. So loneliness basically comes when you don't feel seen or heard by people around you, by people who are close to you. So loneliness is more like an emotional state, whereas being alone is more like a physical state. As per a psychologist, John Cassiopo, who studied loneliness, he says that it's a discrepancy between the connection you have versus the connection you desire. You know, if I talk about my own personal story, I always feared being lonely, and a lot of it has to do with our own upbringing. You know, being a Gujarati, I've always been surrounded by a lot of people, whether it's to do with big families, gatherings, festivities, and we never really needed that own space. And we would just heal ourselves by being in the crowd, by being with people. We would feel that sense of connectedness. But as we keep growing old, we need that time and that space and that solitude to recharge ourselves, to recharge our social batteries. And which is how I realized that being alone can be so refreshing. Over a period of time, I really wanted to go in my own cave in order to rejuvenate myself, to recharge myself, so that I could bring my best self to the table. So being lonely can actually either make you or break you depending upon how do you view it. And as per research, here are some of the reasons why loneliness is becoming an epidemic. Number one is social media. Now, social media is giving us an illusion that we are so connected to each other, but in reality, that's not true. Which reminds me of a quote by Albert Schweitzer. He once said that we all are in this together, but yet we are dying of loneliness. And that's so true. You know, we all have this illusion that we are so connected on social media. Someone's just one click away, one call away. But when you really have to think about calling someone or connecting with someone when you're down in the dumps, you might have 101,000 people following you on social media. But when you think about connecting with someone, you realize that, wait, I just don't have anybody I can connect with right now and feel better, or someone who can give me that sense of comfort. So we all feel that social media is making us connected to people or keeping us close to somebody, but that's not always the case. I mean, of course, it's great to kind of connect on a superficial level, but what about the times when you really need someone for comfort? How many of us really have the privilege of having those set of close people? Then comes number two. We have stopped caring for others. You know, this world has become so independent that we've stopped caring for somebody else. We've stopped caring about what someone is going through. We are so immersed in our own misery, our own quagmires, that we don't really care about if someone really needs us. It's like everyone wants to be in their own cave. They all feel that their problem is so grave that they don't have time for somebody else. We can't have this attitude that I just care about myself and I don't care about others. For example, if my style of living or my partner's style of living is different, you can't completely shun each other away. You can't literally build walls and say that take it or leave it, this is how I am. We need to learn to coexist, to cohabit, to understand each other, to not just care about our own selves, but also to care about people in and around us. Because let me be radically honest, if we just care about ourselves, we won't have people who will care for us in return. And for a lot of people have this attitude that, oh, I don't need people. Here comes the point number 3. Another reason why we are really feeling lonelier and lonelier is because we cannot accept differences these days. I mean, this is the biggest problem we are facing today. That's low tolerance level, low resilience level. It's like if my style of operating is different than my friend's style of operating or how she looks at certain things, I just completely cut it off. I literally think that let me just break apart instead of trying to find a midway where we can meet and figure things out together. So we are now adapting this attitude of cutting it off instead of trying to mend it at first place, is why we are creating this whole scene of loneliness everywhere. It's like no one understands me and hence I choose to be independent. This is not independence, this is hyper independence. It's like I don't need people, I can be enough for myself. But let me be honest, people need people. We all need to be by each other. We can't literally separate ourselves. It's similar to completely cutting ourselves off from the tribe and expecting that we will survive in this world. Humans are meant for connectedness. Even in social determination theory, it's said that we need this sense of connectedness and relatedness. Think about those hunting and gatherer days when we all used to live in tribe, we all used to live together. Because there were some merits, there were some benefits to it. Because anyone who tried or chose to move away from the tribe who is either being killed by a predator or died because of hunger. Now, of course, situations are pretty different today, but also at the same time, we all need to stay connected. We all need to be in tribe, which is why we need community. We need people. We need that sense of connectedness. And Surgeon General Dr. Murthy once wrote in his advisory that loneliness is far more than just a bad feeling. It harms both individual and societal health. It is associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. And the mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to that of smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and even greater than that associated with obesity and physical inactivity. When think about how loneliness can impact our overall well-being, this just blew my mind. Other reason why we are also feeling more and more lonely is because we expect this one person to fulfill all our loneliness. You know, it's a nice way to shrug off your accountability and think that this person is going to make me feel fulfilled, but it's your responsibility to make yourself seen, heard, fulfilled. When you're with someone, you literally let go of this whole idea that you are the reason who can fill your cup, but you always let someone else keep filling your cup. And when that substance is away, you really feel so empty in your own self. So things look good, but deep down you need to address this fear of being lonely. You need to address that you're scared of being lonely and you need to start taking charge of your life. So here's how you can deal with loneliness. Number 1, understanding and accepting your loneliness. Let's address and let's talk about how many of us in today's hyper-connected world feel the need to look fine on the outer side. We need to show that things are so much fine, things are so good, I'm not scared of being lonely. This pressure really makes us harder to face our loneliness, because the moment we accept that yes, I'm experiencing this, it can really create a sense of awareness. It can create space for you to deal with it effectively, as opposed to running away from it. So once you acknowledge it, it helps you in starting with your healing journey. So many people try to avoid or push away this whole feeling of loneliness. They just don't address it. But the moment you start to address it, you acknowledge it, it just allows you to dig a bit more deeper and ask yourself that, is my loneliness a byproduct of my own doing, or am I really lonely because of the outer circumstances? Now let me give you an example. Let's say your friends, your family, your colleagues have made a plan and they ask you if you would like to join them. Now you might deny or say no for multiple reasons, whether you don't feel comfortable with them because you feel that you don't fit this group very well, or it's because of all the emotional or personal conundrums that you're experiencing. So ask yourself, have you been staying away from people or staying in your own cocoon because of your own personal reasons, because you don't feel confident or you don't feel right in your own space, or is it because of the outer circumstances? When I say outer circumstances, it could be that you tried your level best to connect with people, ask them, let's catch up, let's do this, let's do that, and still people are not really responding to you. Then that's a different story altogether. But if you are the one who's creating these walls, then it's time for you to break it. Then comes the step number 2. Once you're aware of what's at play or what are some of the contributing factors, it's time for you to create small, meaningful connections. Try to focus on quality over quantity. You don't need to have 101 people in order for you to stay connected, or you just need few set of people to stay in touch with, to feel that sense of belongingness, to feel a part of a tribe. So instead of spreading yourself too thin for some superficial connections, try to build some meaningful connections. According to social bonding theory, it says that humans are wired to seek deeper and more meaningful connections. It's better to have a few handful of people you truly connect with than to feel lonely in a crowd. पता हिंदी में कहावत है कि चाहे किसी और के साथ हमारी बनती हो या नहीं बनती हो, पड़ोसियों से पहले बननी चाहिए. बिकॉज ड्यूरिंग द टाइम ऑफ द एडवर्सिटी और वेन एवर आप कुछ मुश्किल में हो तो आप सबसे पहले पड़ोसी के पास भागते हो. तो सिमिलरली ट्राई टू स्टार्ट सेटिंग योर कनेक्शंस विद पीपल इन एंड अराउंड यू. A friend of mine would always try to meet new people and try to create these new connections because she felt or she believed that making new connections will make her less lonely. But that's not true, and which is why rekindling some old friendships can be a good starter. So connect with old friends through some common activities or some common memories that you've had in the past. And while I talk about rekindling your old friendships, one of the things that I truly suggest people to eradicate loneliness is to create a good connection with your inner circle. And your inner circle comprises your friends, your family, partner, your cousins, your siblings, any of them. So try to have a good bond with them. It could be a set of 2 to 3 close people, but try to have that sense of bonding, that sense of belongingness with them. You can also create some activities or rituals that you can do with them in order to strengthen that bond. And once you think that you've developed a good bonding with your inner circle, it's time to hop on to the outer circle. The outer circle can be of people you can do some activities with. It could be your friends, it could be your colleagues, where you can connect with them during social events, whether it's for sports, a general catch-up, or for weekend parties. But it's gradually trying to expand your circle with another set of 2 to 3 people. Then comes our third and top most brutal truth when it comes to dealing with loneliness. That is, don't hinge upon somebody to eradicate your loneliness. Rather focus on your inner self. Rather focus on watering your own grass. Hence create a purpose that's larger than that one person. Maslow's hierarchy of needs focuses and emphasizes a lot more on self-actualization and personal growth. It shows that the more we love and develop ourselves, the more we can handle solitude positively. Because it's said that when you develop or cultivate a good relationship with yourself, you don't depend on someone else to make you feel good, or you don't depend on someone else to fill that emotional void. There was a time when I started to feel extremely lonely all by myself, and I didn't know this whole concept of solitude. But I started to work on myself. Every time I was down in the dumps, I would sit with myself. I would understand my emotions. What am I experiencing? Why am I experiencing? Is it the byproduct of my own thoughts or my own imagination? And self-reflection really allowed me to break through those limiting patterns, those limiting beliefs. So journaling is the best way. Whenever you feel extremely lonely, you can sit with yourself, just simply journal down what you're experiencing, what are you feeling, and then ask yourself, why am I feeling this way and what can I do about it? And honestly speaking, loneliness can just be a reminder, a gentle reminder, or a signal to reconnect with our own self, with our true self, with our inner self. And one of the best ways to deal with loneliness is to practice self-love and gratitude. I know you might have heard this for tons of times, but here's something that I'll tell you how you can eradicate loneliness while loving yourself and how to practice this gratitude. A lot of times people choose substance or they run away from their problems because they can't sit with themselves. They can't deal with their own problems or their guilt or all these negative emotions that they're experiencing. A lot of time people choose alcohol because that's like a good escape for them. So practicing a bit self-care or self-love in terms of doing things that helps you grow as opposed to doing things that kind of puts you down, such as addiction or unhealthy behavioral patterns. So trying to switch that completely can help you eradicate your loneliness, and this is how you will be able to transform your loneliness into peaceful solitude, where even if you are alone by yourself, you will enjoy that time and space by doing things that fills your cup or doing things that makes you feel happy and alive. So instead of fearing being alone, I started to cherish being by myself. If you are feeling lonely, know that it's completely fine to feel it that way. Ask yourself, why have you been feeling this way? What's the root cause? What exactly is at play? And then gradually start to build meaningful connections, start to create rituals for yourself, build a good relation with your inner circle, create an outer circle, connect with people in and around us, because in the end we need people. We can't go on with this attitude of, oh, I am enough for myself and I can't adjust with others. We need to have this flexibility in order to adapt with each other, because people need people, period. So I hope that you really like this video and this video was helpful. Please make sure to share it with someone who really needs to know this, who really needs to hear this out. Please make sure to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next week very soon. Till then, bye bye.